around for me.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber, and I see what you mean. Like when I move to the right, it moves to the left. So,
Yes.
so it's okay. So I'll try to behave on my own. This is one of those meetings. I would say two things are really important. Number one is I don't need to do anything in this meeting. Dr. Martin is going to be running the meeting, and I'm very happy about that. More importantly, though, this is a critically important topic. And I think when I started understanding this a couple decades ago, I would say that it seemed like the right thing to do. And I think what we've all learned is that it's not just the good and the right thing to do, but it's the right thing to do from the standpoint of innovation, of creativity, and of business success, and of more than just empowering people to do the right thing, but through that empowerment, they end up enriching their own lives, but enriching businesses. And from a business perspective, that's really cool and really essential. And I think people sometimes lose sight of that. Not you people in this room, but generally it always seemed to be like a do-good thing, but it's not. It's do-good business thing. And so I'm really happy and pleased that we can have this conversation today with three global experts and another fourth global expert that's in the audience, at least for a period of time. First of all, Dr. Joelle Martin will be kicking us off and leading the conversation today. Maria Putnam stepped out of a meeting that she's been running in Denver to be able to be here. So Maria of the DEI Leadership Institute, thank you for joining us today. And Luiza Dreasher, who's also an expert mastering cultural, I'm blanking on the third word, an extraordinary leader who's also going to be adding. What is it, Luiza?
Mastering cultural differences.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Which, goes to the heart of really what we're doing here is that people are different and they need to be managed different and treated differently and given fair shakes. And that makes better business. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Joelle Martin. Please take it away.
Thank you, Doug. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I am delighted to be here to have this meaningful discussion because essentially, no matter where we live or where our businesses are located, we are all in the people business. I'm going to be leading off my portion of this conversation with a video. And I appreciate everyone for joining in, but I'm going to tell you, this video, when I saw it the very first time and continues to bring me this feeling, it's about the James Webb Telescope team. They are the Time Innovators of the year 2022. And when I saw the video, it moved me so much because it is a representation of why I love the work I do, why I've spent 30 years of my life as a specialist of global transformation and across the US, diversity, equity, and inclusion. For me, when I think about the two areas that I specialize in, they come together out of the commitment that Doug shared so profoundly with us. Innovation, respect, and success in global business. So enjoy the video.
We promised a telescope that was 100 times more powerful than what we've had before. But not only is it working, this is better than we expected.
Decollage liftoff from a tropical rainforest to the edge of time itself. James Webb begins a voyage back to the birth of the universe.
The first science images that we released in July, the president rolling this out, that's a pretty big deal.
The world is really into this telescope and is along for the ride and wants to know what the next stop on the road trip is.
The mission was the real driver. Let's get this thing done, whatever it takes. There were issues along the way, long before I came on, and no one relented. When you want to do bold things, there certainly would be some unprecedented risk, and you just try to minimize as much as possible. And that's what the team did. They did an excellent job with it. We do a lot of comparisons to Hubble, rightfully so, because Hubble was the premier for 30 years. Webb is probably twice the size of Hubble, close to half the mass. Of course, Hubble's in low Earth orbit, and Webb is 1 million miles out. But to see the difference in clarity and the difference in what you could see and the difference in how quickly you could get the same image, it was thrilling to see those.
For JWST, there's no joystick. It's not like anybody's, point a little more to the left, a little to the right. It's more like a playlist. We have a very detailed playlist or a set of recipes. Every minute of the time is scripted, is in one of those recipes, and we schedule the telescope about a week at a time. On launch day, I was here. For us, the moment that was so beautiful, at first, oh my gosh, things are just going to go well on this project, was the separation from the launch vehicle. That's when this crowd cheered.
Séparation Webb Space Telescope. Go Webb!
When we got into the count, normally I get praise.
That video expresses to me the magnificence of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging when you really, really have it together. This is what that was. And I too say, go Webb, every time I see it. This great ship came from the hands of a diverse team of researchers, engineers, and factory line workers. They came together. And to understand the defining difference of Gregory Robinson, the team's leader, here's what his boss said. He can walk into a meeting or a launch room and walk out knowing what the energy of the team is and also what hinders their progress. That is transformational leadership in action. To have a vision, to bring a team together such that they all belong and own that mission. That team was diversity, equity, and inclusion, belonging in action. So what's diversity? In the way I live and breathe and teach and train on diversity is the collective mixture of differences and similarities. For example, one of the things that I do in my first level training of this, I ask people, when you look at this, it's a wonderful, wonderful model. When you look at this model of diversity traits, above the line, there are those that you can see. Below the other lines, the ones that are invisible. Think of one trait that when you talk about your relationship with that trait, it's positive. You're excited about it. That's one thing that I use. And what happens is in a safe environment, people start telling their stories, and that is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in action. The next thing, what is equity? And the way I frame it is being fair and impartial, giving people what they need to be their most successful. And what business person doesn't want people to be successful? That's what turns on your guests. That's what has your sales go up. And that last word is inclusion, diversity, equity, inclusion. And I frame belonging a little differently. And my colleagues, I can't wait to hear how your perspective and my perspective might be in alignment. So inclusion is providing equal and equitable access to opportunities to get the resources and to get the value of the organization and being intentionally welcoming and engaging. And belonging is a feeling that the people who work with you in that safe environment that you're creating, that safe environment that's so important when we're doing our DEI, belonging, racial justice work, that they say, I matter here. And when we're looking at people of other cultures, when we're looking at our colleagues who are considered marginal, but so important, just like the importance of every person in the Gregory Robinson team, when we think about them, what has people give you their best of their best? Because they matter. because we have the power as a facilitator of cultural change to bring everyone together in a visionary way to create magnificence. As leaders, we will and we must and we do think for ourselves with other people who share with us a commitment to actions that can change lives and businesses for the better. So wherever I am on the planet, welcome.
Hello,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm great. Have a seat. Come sit.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So wherever I am on the planet, and I've trained all over the world. And again, the intersection of the two areas that I serve in, transformational leadership development and diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's all about bringing teams together in ways that are breakthrough and high performing and innovative. So I'm going to move now and shift to critical race theory, CRT. Here are the facts. There are people who would like to have miscommunication happen on this, but these, as I said, are the facts. Critical race theory is an academic concept over 40 or 50 years old. And it began from a group of people coming together and having a legal conversation about how can we cause and create a change in the racism and racial outcomes. One of the leaders of this was the scholar Derek Bell. So the first word, critical. This first word is an academic reference related to critical thinking, critical theory, and scholarly criticism. It is not, I repeat, it is not a criticism of a person. It is about a way of thinking. Let me bring that to life for you. For example, critical thinking involves 1, perceiving a problem, 2, making an effort to solve it, and 3, reaching out to a conclusion that includes data. So you as a business person, you're finding out that your sales are not what you want them to be. So what do? You just don't assume that they'll go up on their own. No, you're going to be innovative. You're going to have a test go out. You're going to find some feedback that tells you why your sales are going down and conversely why they may be going up, so you can keep doing that. That's critical thinking. That you have defined a problem, sales are going down. 2, you're making an effort to solve it. And 3, you're reaching a conclusion that can be replicated. That's critical thinking. And we do this in business. That's the essence of that first word, critical. So again, it is not blaming anyone. Now, the second word comes out of one of the basic principles of CRT, and that is that racism and racial outcomes are the results of complex changing social and institutional dynamics, not merely the products of individuals' bias, microaggressions, but embedded in legal systems and policies. That's the part about race. And that last word is theory. What is a theory? A theory is a system of ideas intended to explain, in this case, CRT is about racism, explain racism and the outcomes, that has the ability to liberate us. I love that, from these types of outcomes. And what person on the planet does not want to be liberated from the outcomes that hold them back, that stop them from being their best person? This is not what we want for our workforces. I say I do. Again, my goal, my mission for 30 years is to change lives and businesses for the better. And I have become a specialist in transformational leadership, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I have a few tips for you. And then I'm so excited to hear from my colleagues. But my tips, the first one is learn from people who have invested their time, talent, resources, and energy in studying. I'm a lifelong learner, who have brought all of this, their lived experience, their chosen profession together in bringing people together in unity, in accelerating growth, and creating innovation and success in our global businesses. That's number one. Find those people. We exist out there. The second one is to create a safe environment. How do we create a safe environment? I have a few great technologies and ways of doing this experientially. I'd be happy to share them with you, my guests. And we have many, don't we, ladies? Yes. All right. So create a safe environment. Once you have that safe environment, there's a process that we use called listen, talk, learn, and believe. Listen to the people who are experiencing the challenges of racism. And again, I'm referring to CRT. It could be, you could use your critical thinking in other ways, but listen to them and then talk and tell your story. And from that, learn together and believe them. The thing about a safe environment is that people can tell the truth when they feel that they can trust you. Very, very important. And the last one, use the platinum rule. Now, you may know what the golden rule is, and I'll just remind you a little of it. The golden rule is to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's the golden rule. The platinum rule is do unto others as they would have you do unto them. And that's the value of listening, of talking, of learning and believing in an environment. And from that launch pad, DEI, belonging and racial justice, you can shift your culture through a needs assessment that tells you what's missing, what's not working, and then close the gap between where you are, where you want to be with anyone who professes to own and has the ability to bring it home. All right, so it's my pleasure now to bring one of our superstar experts, Maria Putnam. Welcome, Maria. Can you hear us okay?
Thank you so much, Dr. Martin. Yes, I can hear you fine.
All right, so everyone, Maria is the co-founder of DEI Leadership Institute. She has experienced a lot of achievement in business. And I am so glad to have her here on this call with us because she's taking time out from her work and where she is. Maria, please tell us about your DE&I Leadership Institute.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. First, I really like to see the faces that I see here on my screen. I really appreciate your taking the time to explain diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yes, I've been doing DEI for more than 2 years, and it has been my passion. I see DEI as a human right. And with the Institute, we have a certification program for leaders who really want to make a difference in their spaces, wherever they are. And doesn't have to be only in the corporate world. I think that we can make a difference wherever we are and whatever we do. So yeah, this is that's what we offer. We offer a certification program, and it's online. And if not one of those, check the box. I have a strong background in education. Actually, I have a principal license. I oversaw the application of DEI in one of the biggest school districts. So education is my so that's about hope I have answered your question, Dr. Martin.
Thank you. So they would find out more about your certification program online. Can they find out the information on LinkedIn? Because I know we're all listed on LinkedIn. Is that a possibility?
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
yes. They can
you make it
now. Everything is. Oh, yeah,
Right.
it's the DEI Leadership Institute. Yes, www.leaddei.com. Yes, linking. Yes.
All right, thank you, Maria. My second question for you, how do you advise your clients or your audience, because I know you're a speaker as well, to get the best results, the best business results through DE&I?
Wow. Well, I approach DI from the human perspective. And as humans, we are people. So we communicate with people, no matter what kind of business we do, or what kind of company we work for, or what kind of product we represent. So my advice always is to start from the human side. And you actually just touch a little bit at the end when you talk about values. That's where we start with DI. From humans to humans, from communicating. And I think that the best way to approach DI is that from the human perspective.
I agree with you. I consider values the guiding post for any aligning team effort, and values, vision, desired results, and the best behaviors. So do you have a simple rule for the E&I practitioner? No, you know what? Can I really put you on the spot now? Say yes, Maria, please.
Yes.
You're in a moment, you're going to have many people who want to know more about your certification program. What's a simple rule for them? Once you start working with this group of people, what's the simple rule that you most want them to understand and appreciate? Maybe if you could walk us through that.
Well, actually, there is one that is being present. You have to be present, and then don't assume. I think that's sometimes as humans, we tend to assume. So I always say, use your DI glasses and don't assume. And then,
good.
We just dive as human beings. And my approach with DI as an educator, I always love to go back and talk about history. And this is not a history class, but I always say, when we don't know our history, we tend to repeat things. So let's do things better. And it's important to invest in education. That's why the certification, I think, is very important. And I'm going back actually a little bit from the question that you asked me before. Yes. I think that when I talk to leaders, I really highlight how important it is for them to be informed, to educate themselves, so they can lead better. I think that there are great consultants for DI, but it's such a plus when a leader takes the time to really invest in education himself or herself and apply that, even bring someone from outside. So education for me is the basic. It's very important in DI.
I truly agree. I appreciate your mentioning your educational background. And I used to be the owner of a full service ad agency. And then I took this transformational leadership program, and I said, I got to be doing that. And that started me in my world tour, if you will. And then it wasn't enough. I got a master's in psych, and that wasn't enough. And then I got a PhD in communication. Then I was a Wharton Fellow. Why? Like you, I believe in the value of education. So how can I support? We'll talk later, I know, but I want to know how I can support you in what you're doing to educate, train people on how to be excellent, innovative, successful. Is your program virtual? Because we have some people who are going to see this virtually. Is it a virtual program or is it a hybrid? Okay. Are we hearing you, Maria?
Program.
Oh, okay. All right, great. All righty. So what we have.
Can you hear me? Yes. So yeah.
All right. So I appreciate we are of one about the human side of it. I remember very well you said don't assume, and that follows right in with tell the truth, because you know, where are we in our businesses if we can't tell the truth in them? Anything before you leave us to go back to your conference, Maria?
Yes, I will invite everybody to read a little bit what happened after 1619 in the world. And you will see that so many things that have happened lead us to where we are today. And we are the ones who can make a difference. We are the ones who can make a better world and live a better world that we found.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
History.
I agree with great book, 1619. Oh my gosh. All right, I wish we had more time, but I know, oh, wait. There's a question from Dr. Renee. She wants to know, what is your correct information? Can you put that in chat before you go?
Yes, I will. And thank you so much, Dr. Martin, for leading this wonderful event. Really appreciate that. So my information is gonna be there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria. Have a great conference.
Thank you.
So Luiza, please pronounce your last name for me.
Dreasher.
Dreasher?
Dreasher, yeah, like Fran Dreasher, the actor.
Okay, thank you so much. You know, I don't want to mess up on people's names or their pronouns. Okay, well, welcome. I'm so glad that you were able to take time with us today as well. You are incredibly busy, I know. And I'm going to, you know what, I have to tell you, my friend, I read your bio. And what I said to Doug was, it's superb and wonderful, but I'd rather she talk than to have me read it. So I'm very, very honest with people. And that's, you know, I can't wait to talk to you. You know, I'm coming from a place of diversity, equity, inclusion, and racial justice background. Maria is from the education perspective. How would you frame the work that you're passionate about? Please, that's my first question.
Well, the work I do, I think it's primarily, it has evolved over the years based on the experiences that I've had that have led me to this path.
Okay.
I started on the global side of things because, you know, the accent that you hear is, sometimes I joke this is my Minnesota nice accent because I'm housed in Minnesota, but it doesn't work with every
Oh, I know
audience.
about Minnesota nice.
So this accent comes to you, you know, from Brazil, where I was born and raised. And then, so I started on the international side, you know, learning about cultural differences, why they were important and necessary, especially in the business world. But I soon realized that just understanding cultural differences is not enough. You also have to create environments where individuals feel valued, feel included and respected, and we want to stay. So like a true Gemini, I work on both on global diversity and domestic diversity.
Excellent. All right. Doug, could you do me a favor, please? Thank you. And I want to make sure we have your information in chat too.
Yes, before
right.
I leave, I'll make sure to put my email and contact information on the chat.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so talk to us about being an ally, ALLY. Why are they important? How does one become one? What does that mean?
Okay, being an ally. Well, you know, I like when you talked about, you started talking about the CRT. And the way I see CRT is that it addresses the inequities in our policies, in our practices, but at the macro level. We as individuals, we need to do our part as well. And we can do that by being an ally. An ally is someone who voices or demonstrates support for someone to whom harm is being done. And it could be in the form of a joke, a hurtful comment, or even an action. For example, when someone is interrupted during a staff meeting. So allies are willing to get uncomfortable. They use their voices in support of those who are being marginalized. And they are willing to call out racism or sexism or homophobia, whatever it is, when they see it happening. So they speak up even when it is difficult to do so.
Wonderful.
Now, do you want me to
loving.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm just thinking about what you said in terms of the work that I do. We have a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee of one of my clients, and their sponsors are executives who are allies to the DE&I committee. So what advice would you give to an organization that wants to have allies be part of their DEI belonging and possibly a racial justice team?
I think
How does that work? Yeah, go ahead, please.
How I think they have to learn. You have to learn. This is a skill set that you have to develop, and you have to learn how to speak up in a productive way. React in a productive way, in a way that invites a conversation, and you also have to understand that many people, it's hard. This is hard. Many people want to speak up, but they usually don't know how to do it, how to approach the situation, or what to say. But that is a problem, because being silent can be, you will allow the behavior to thrive. Silence can also be interpreted as you are agreeing with the perpetrator. And I think silence also can take a toll on you. You will probably spend the rest of the day, why didn't I say something? Why didn't I speak up? I should have done something. So there are some things that you can do, just simple things that you can learn to start doing. For example, you hear something offensive, you hear a hurtful joke, just pull the person aside and explain the impact while assuming good intent on the part of the speaker. I always approach interactions that way. So in other words, start with the assumption that the person is a decent human being, but clueless about the impact of their words. Here, for example, some ways you can provide non-blaming feedback. You can say, I know you meant well when you said whatever it is, or I'm sure you meant that to be funny, or do you realize what you said in the meeting was offensive? So the key is to provide feedback in a non-blaming way, to approach the person who was being offensive or demeaning as if they did not intend to do harm. Because the reality is that, a simple phrase or a simple question on your part can turn the conversation from destructive to more productive. And who knows, sometimes being the first person to speak up could inspire someone else to do the same. But please understand that calling someone out, a racist or sexist or homophobe or what have you, is not going to work. It was probably going to make you feel better in the moment, but it's not going to advance the cause. The key is to interrupt the behavior in a way that opens up a conversation and does not diminish the individual. And another easy way, another way that is related to the first one is just ask lots of questions, lots of non-threatening questions. What do you mean? What are you trying to say? What leads you to say that? without actually placing blame, because you are creating that with all these questions, you are creating an opportunity to deepen the conversation so you can understand where the individual is coming from, as opposed to, why in God's name would you say something like that? And then it's a sure way of shutting down the conversation. The key is to react in a way that invites a conversation.
Wonderfully put. Wonderfully put. I love that. Voice support to the person when harm is done, allyship. Invite a conversation that is not divisive.
Yeah.
But that, one of the things that I share is grant grace.
Yes, absolutely.
This is right. It's a learning environment for all people, grant grace. Sometimes we need to. Okay, I have another question. How's your time? How's your time? That's not the question. I just want to make sure.
I'm good.
I
I'm
know
still
you
good.
have a meeting. You're good? Okay. Good.
Yes.
Can you provide some steps that individuals can take so they can communicate in a respectful way? So this might not be the stereotypical phrase of the microaggression. What do you think?
Yes, I can do that. But let me step back for a little bit, going back to
Sure.
to allyship. I think the best way to think of it is not how to become an ally, but to strive to be an aspiring ally. Because there are some authors who argue that for us to go that way, striving towards a allyhood rather than claiming to have arrived, because the truth is it's hard to you don't know what's going to happen, and you may step in as an ally in one situation, but you may not do it in another one. So aspiring ally recognizes that we are a work in progress. So let's keep that in mind. And the other thing I think it's very important, especially in our context, you also have to take into consideration the cultural background. We are in the United States, we are more egalitarian. A manager or supervisor may appreciate your input, especially if it's done in a respectful way and in private. Never call out your supervisor in public. But in cultures that have a higher power distance or are more hierarchical, it would be highly inappropriate for you to call out an authority figure. So you can't do that. The cultural orientation, cultural values will not allow for that. There's also, communication styles. US Americans are more direct communicators. There's no beating around the bush. But in some cultures, where indirect communication is the preferred style, the conversation about what happened in the staff meeting, what you said in the staff meeting that had everybody upset, may be something more like, oh, I see these dark clouds coming. There may be a lot of rain coming, this week, although we don't need it. So you speak about the situation in an indirect way. So, you have to keep that in mind.
All right.
But going back to, go ahead.
I got one for you.
Yes.
As a woman of color, a Black woman, all right, I don't have a problem being direct. However, let's say there's someone who is just starting out that is considered a person of color, and something happens to his. I'm going to give you a real situation and see how you respond to it and answer it. This person, I'm sorry. I'm telling you, we're here to get the work done, right? This person was accomplished, a woman, Black woman. She was accomplished. There was a promotion. She was not awarded the promotion. The promotion went to a man who was not a person of color, and she was asked to train him. How would you advise her? What would you suggest her path to success would be?
Oh, that is such a hard question. You know,
I know, but
I would have a sit down. There's so many components to this question, because even the individual who got the position may feel bad about it, may see
He
the
did.
fact that, you know, he was promoted and she was not. I think there is some deep-rooted problems in these organizations, and I think they have to start having conversations about biases. Why is it that, you know, she was not, you know, she didn't receive it and he did? Was there a bias that prevented that, her receiving the promotion? So that is one conversation that needs to happen. And there is another one that came to my mind and it just escaped me. So you have to look at the environment and what is going on. And the other thing is you need to take steps to prevent that from happening, because you know, the qualified individuals need to be seriously considered. You know, what is the criteria that is in place? Do you have objective
Right.
criteria?
Absolutely.
That so that you can look, you know, I've been encouraging my clients to start, you know, doing blind searches, you know, looking at resumes or credentials without any identifying, you know, criteria, so that you can check yourselves, you know, create a, you know, group one will look at the resumes, group B will look at the resumes without any identifiers. Will they get to the same result? In fact, the last institution I worked with, they were going to start doing that. So there are many conversations that need to happen at this institution, you know, bias training, you know, implement an objective
policies.
criteria, so that individuals are moved. And I would be, you know, if I were that woman, I would really be upset. And, you know,
She was.
and, you know, then start thinking, is this a place where I can thrive? Is this a place there is value in me? I know that's not an easy question to answer, because, you know, people have, you know, rents to pay, family, you know, kids to feed and so forth. But in the long run, is this the right fit for me? Is this not the right fit, the right place for me? Can I thrive here? Because if the answer is no, maybe it's time to start looking for another place.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I will tell you, the conversation that we just had, it resolved itself, absolutely. She's no longer there. But the conversation, the conversation that you and I just had is what happens when belonging doesn't occur. She did not feel she mattered. The culture of the organization didn't create belonging. Yeah, so I think that was a good resolution. Doug, do you want to add anything? Any questions, comments?
Just a general question on belonging, because I've seen DEI, and now just for whatever reason, like with this meeting, I started noticing DEIB. So when did that happen? And the way you've just described it makes a lot of sense how it fits in. What could you talk a little bit about that and why that's now involved, or maybe I just missed it?
Okay. Yeah, Luiza, I'm going to invite you to jump in as well.
Go ahead.
My experience of belonging happened because of in one sense, it was the burnout of people. It was not feeling like they belonged. Many employers were looking for more employees of diverse, culturally diverse. Okay, so how do we keep them working it costs more to train than it does to provide activities and to get involved with people in such a way that they do feel that they belong. It's like a huge win-win
Sure.
to have people experience authentic belonging. And like I tell my clients, you may have all the inclusive activities that you want, but if that person doesn't feel that you're trustworthy or that they're safe or that they can advance in that organization, you're missing an opportunity.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I'm glad it's being considered.
Me too.
Should we call it DEIB from now on? Or-
We do.
Okay, got it.
And RJ, racial justice.
Ah.
But that's a different conversation.
That I have not heard yet. So that's good. And what makes me think, I'm thinking of in terms of the way you are.
Mm.
However, I think, some things in this country that are happening where people recognize, they say general things like, oh, the country's getting so much worse. It's like, well, how is it getting worse? Well, our borders are being flooded, and they go through like these general concepts. But what it seems to boil down to is that they don't want to live in a multicultural community, which America is. In the 20s and like 100 years ago, it was the Irish and the Germans and all basically white people to a large extent, and they were the ones that were being excluded out and joked about and all of that. Now it's the additional element of color of skin and religion is being weaved into this, so that there are people that want to belong because they're different, and there's people who are the legacy people who want to belong, but they want to belong in their own group instead of this multicultural. So how does that weave into things?
I tend to think, quite frankly, it weaves in on the bottom line. Is it a success? There's Luiza, what's your thought? I don't want to just take over on the mic here, but that's one of the things, that the results of having teams of people who are high performers, and that has to do with belonging, mattering, access, that's the inclusion part, being appreciated for their differences.
Some people have resentment toward their company for having policies that enable and empower people who are not like them. Right. And so I see Yuka Nakasone on this, and I don't know whether Yuka, this has ever happened to you, but she's Japanese living in Spain, and so I would guess and imagine that probably she's accepted, but there's got to be chances or times when that didn't happen or doesn't happen. You're not one of us kind of mentality. I don't know. So sorry, I didn't mean to interfere, but
No, are you?
Yeah, okay.
You say things that I would be uncomfortable saying, saying that certain people have privilege, other people do not, that our state is becoming a majority minority, quote unquote, and I don't like that word. So I appreciate you.
I felt it in Japan as a foreigner, where I was largely accepted, but never really, part of the group, right? You're never going to be
You didn't
in.
belong.
And the people that wanted to be part of the group got frustrated. And I recognized that I didn't speak Japanese well enough or did a lot of things that I'd never get there. Plus, I want to be part of the group, but you're never going to be part of the group. So why even aspire? Yuka, how has it worked for you in Spain? Do you never run into any problems, or do you occasionally?
I did.
Yeah.
Not in Spain though, because I guess I'm just guessing that cultures really matter. Even in this Europe, seemingly homogeneous Europe, cultures are totally different from one country to another. If I cross the border, it's France, where my ex-husband was from. And I really felt I was discriminated by people I don't know in France many times.
Yeah.
But it doesn't
Ah.
happen in Spain. It
Okay.
happens maybe, but it's so dry and so open the way they express, like calling me China, meaning Chinese, on the
Oh
street.
my God.
I really don't take it personally. I was like, so what's wrong? You know, smiling. And I just don't take it personally because it's so dry and open that I kind of feel like they tease themselves in that way as well. So why I have to take it personally, right? So I don't feel I'm excluded here. I'm fully integrated in Spain, but not in other European cultures. It's very, very strange.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Luiza,
it's
you've
very
got the
strange.
Brazil, American and other countries. How do you view this issue?
Yeah.
I've learned to accept that I think it all has to do with how individuals see and deal with differences. And you have to recognize that, and you have to, see it for what it is. Some individuals are not ready. They see, differences. Some don't even recognize differences. Others see differences, and these differences are bad. So there is that us versus them mentality, and that those are the individuals who often make the negative comments. Oh, all the immigrants are coming in and they're taking up our jobs and messing up our social, system. So we're better, you're not. There's a lot of stereotypical statements, a lot of fear and ignorance. The problem is I can't do the work for you. Each and every one of us, we need to do the work and finding out who we are, how we see differences, and take the steps to start seeing differences in a better way. So it's a process, it's a journey. It doesn't happen, just by reading a book,
Yes.
Taking a training. You have to work at it every single day. And this process has to start, within yourself. How do I see differences? What are my prejudices? What are my stereotypes? How do I work with differences? And then you move from there, and there's steps that you can take to start, and you can go slowly, seeing differences in a better way. But it's hard. It's hard. I've done training, with individuals who see differences in a negative way, and it's because those individuals feel they are under siege, they're being attacked. So it is challenging to work with them. So you have to work at it every day. It's a journey.
It seems like that there's one issue is immigrants, like the immigrants are taking my job. That's an economic question, I think, right, mainly. But the other part of it is the person's different. So they have different skin, they have different religion, they're LGBTQ. There's no, if they're a local person and they are different, first of all, there doesn't seem to be appreciation for the potential innovation positivity that brings to the table. And then the other part of it is, why does it become an issue? Because they're different. And how do companies overcome the fact that, just because the person is gay, why is that even an issue? Because they're a Muslim, why does that matter? When we're doing something that's unrelated to whatever that is, that they do at home, or they do in their bedroom, or they do at church, or whatever. So what is that? Just a human frailty?
It's a human being.
And that is the saying, when I'm having these types of conversations, you have to see differences for what they are. They are differences. They're not deficiencies. their differences. And our job is to understand these differences so that we can work better together. So
Well, think
So-
about where differences begin. You know, they begin with the media, they begin with how we're raised at home, where we go to school, what we learned there. For me, the great equalizer was when I went away to college. You know, I grew up in an all-Black community from a family that was multiracial. And then going to college, I had a chance to meet people and to find out and talk to them and learn them and become their friend. And belong. And I realized that my belief system needed to change, particularly for the difference that I wanted to make. First time I went internationally, I was to Russia many years ago when it was the USSR. And what I had at the time were those commercials, those very degrading commercials of Russian women. But when I got there and I got to know the people and I got to do my own version of listen, talk, and learn and believe, I shifted because, to your point, Luiza, because I wanted to. Luiza and I and all of the people who are practitioners to the degree that we are, I suggest, I know the work for me started within so that I could continue making this difference. And once you realize that there's more for you in the world, getting over ourselves, if you will, then we can shift. Doesn't mean that I walk in every room and everybody's going to just be all goo goo gaga over Joelle.
But I agree with Luiza. Luiza said something about everyone has to work on their own individual goals. And I agree with that because I've been in many countries myself and never encountered any opposition or anything like that. And I think it's because you have to learn to integrate in every culture. You have to learn, like you just said, see and talk.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
And then you become part of that society, part of those people. And then actually you start thinking, acting, and behaving like a local. And if you're able to do that, somehow, then you belong.
Yeah.
Better than
Yeah.
being Black, being Latino, like I am, being Italian,
Brazilian.
Brazilian, from Argentina, from Brazil. I mean, we are all different colors. Look at Yoka. Yoka is Japanese. And she's called Chinese many times because that's it. But anyways, my thinking is individually, we have to do our own thing and find our own way. We can't expect, a doctor like my doctor to find that way for me.
Yeah.
You can teach, you can tell people how to do it, but we as an individual have to learn that.
Yes,
Yeah,
and you get to the
Go ahead.
point where, yes, I mean, this environment, I recognize I need to behave this way, but in this other environment, I need to shift that. You become very good at code shifting and adapting, your behavior. That's when you really got it.
Yeah. I find that I'm happiest when I am who I am. Wasn't necessarily how I grew up, but I am happiest with who I am. Yeah. Luiza, you gave me another question. How are we doing on time, Doug?
We're 3 o'clock.
Doug says we're over. We need to end this conversation.
Yeah.
How are you doing? You've got work that you got to do.
We probably
Yes,
got
I do. Doug, I
Alright.
says I part 2 coming, so that we can finish, continue to have this conversation.
Yeah, well, Luiza, I think that you and I have a great idea, and that is to find a way for us to work together in Brazil, in Phoenix, or wherever you are. All right.
Okay,
And
sounds
bring
great.
Doug in. All right, everyone. It has been my pleasure, my privilege, my joy to be part of this meaningful conversation. Dr. Renee, thank you for joining us. Yuka, what is your name?
Rigo Duran.
Rigo, thank you. Doug, and our intern,
Hagen.
Again?
Thank you.
Yes, we're going to bring it to a close, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us. I am so glad to have met you all. I look forward to further conversations. Be safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you for the invitation.
Oyasumi
Bye.
Nasai.